Today. It's going to be a huge day. Adam was talking about it there with the welfare reform bill. You can expect votes in Parliament around 7 o'clock this evening. So do stick with Times Radio throughout the day today, and we'll bring you the latest on how many Labour MPs have signed that amendment. That will give you the number of rebels to expect and what the scale of that rebellion against Keir Starmer might mean. We're also probably going to hear more from the government. We might even hear more about that review. One of the points of contention is the review happening after the changes have already taken place. That's frustrated a lot of MPs. Will the government shift on that? There will be a briefing this morning, a lobby briefing this morning. So we get an update on Hugo Rifkin's show, probably from Number 10.
Is a review, is it me? Maybe just because it's the first time I've covered every day a brand new government, I think. It feels like there's a lot of reviews. Now, some would say, why not do your reviews in opposition? They'll say maybe we don't have the full details of all the books. That's what they often say. But it does feel like hurry up and have a review it can at one level, the thing that we're talking about with Adam, it doesn't sound bold, does it? It sounds like you're following, not leading.
No, I think the thing about a review is it allows you to open up a conversation. And part of being a government and getting the country to come along with you is about persuading people that you need to make a change. So if you think about what happened with Liz Truss, and somebody mentioned Liz Truss had a big, bold plan before, Adam was talking about you need a bold plan. Part of the reason why that went so wrong, and there were many, let's be frank, we've rehearsed those at length, is that there was no run-in time. There was no time for people to prepare, to get ready, expectation management. And what you often see with this kind of review process is the government will drop ideas into newspapers, into conversations, onto radio programmes, and we will talk about them, get the public's reaction, and they actually use that as a gauge to help them make policy. And part of the welfare reform is about speaking to disability groups. It is worth saying again, I think it's every single disability campaign rights group is opposed to this government welfare bill. You know, that is very significant for a Labour government. So they need to be able to get people on board for this. So reviews do serve a purpose, but I think it is right to say there are a significant number under this government, and it is weighing down and slowing down.
It's hard to get excited with it. There's a great line in Yes, Prime Minister, who goes, "I am your leader, I must follow you." And there's a bit of that sometimes with this government, maybe. Yeah,
it's a conversation we've been having all day, and we will continue to have throughout this week. It is, of course, 1 year of the Labour government over the course of this weekend. Right, what are subscribers reading on thetimes.com and the Times app this morning?
The third most read.
Royal train to be scrapped after a 2-day trip cost £45,000.
This is a story by our royal editor, Kate Mancy. She told me more about the train earlier.
So this is the Royal train. This is 9 carriages, a very special train that's got 180 years of history. The latest carriages were made in the mid-80s. So it is in need of some renovation. And it would have cost a huge amount to do that renovation. So instead, they've decided to scrap it. They're going to decommission it by March 2027 and turn it into a bit of a museum. Now, it's become a little bit of an embarrassment, the Royal train. It's the annual question that's asked at the financial briefing at the Palace because it's so expensive. So one 2-day trip cost $44,000 in the last year. Another cost $33,000. And only really came out of the sidings twice for those two visits. It's not to say the King won't take other trains, it just won't be ones that are quite that expensive.
That was our royal editor, Kate Mancy. The second most read story today.
How many calories do you really need to cut to lose weight?
Anna Maxted looks at Health Secretary Wes Streeting's hope that nudging people to cut as little as 50 calories a day will help them to lose weight. She chats to Dr. Paul Chell. His one-word summary of that hope: lunacy. Dr. Charles says the problem is your body adapts if you cut calories.
And the article you're reading most this morning?
Oliver Tarvett forfeits £100,000 of Wimbledon winnings to stay in college.
Yeah, the 21-year-old British tennis player cannot pocket all his prize money from Wimbledon because of rules that limit how much amateurs can earn. He's studying at the University of San Diego, and American college rules means he's only allowed to make £7,300 exactly profit on his winnings.
It must be deeply, deeply frustrating. Almost as bad as those poor people who got that email from the lottery saying they'd won.
In Norway.
Yeah,
they got the exchange rate wrong.
It was like 10p and not £1 million. That was a very frustrating week for them. Right, it's 9:52. Earlier we spoke to the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, who's looking to get dads better access to paternity leave and paternity pay. But you have been contacting us this morning worried about the costs. that this kind of policy is good for FTSE 100 companies, for example, but could really put small businesses in a difficult spot. Ed Boyd is the co-founder and chief executive of the think tank ReGenerate, who has a new report that says there's a generational emergency because of soaring childcare costs. And Ed joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think it's worth setting out first, because people may not know this. Who pays for maternity and paternity pay?
So that would be a business who pays it out of their kind of their standard PAYE costs, as you would pay any employee.
And so that's really what we're talking about here. When the government looks at a review of those costs and potentially talks about paying people more or asking businesses to pay more, how realistic is that for most businesses, do you think?
So I think it's realistic in that we polled a load of C-suites of senior business leaders recently, and 2/3 of them said that over the next couple of years, they could imagine themselves bringing in potentially up to 6 weeks paternity leave. I think what we heard from them, though, and what the evidence so clearly is that there is this kind of big win-win where you can kind of help make it work better for businesses, and you can help children in their first 3 years, which we know is so vitally important for the future. But we probably need to look. Yes, we need to look at paternity leave, but we probably need to look quite a lot broader than that. Why not set businesses a challenge of, right, can you do more to help this group and come and look for innovative ideas about how to do it, and not just assume paternity leave is the only thing that can be done. It's a great thing to be done. We welcome it, but there's so many more things. We've talked to FTSE 100, 250 companies, small companies that they want to kind of trial already and start doing. Like there's one scheme around called 80 for 90. Which is, could you get a business to commit to saying, like, until your child is 2, you get to work 80% of your hours for 90% of your pay. And we've got big businesses committing to this. On the early years side, that would be 40% more contact time a week in a 2-parent family, as an example. And there's a 10% cost work for the company for doing it. But actually, people squeeze their work into the hours that they've got in lots of jobs. So actually, it means that they're spreading out the benefit for the parents over 2 years. So you're more likely to keep amazing talent, and especially women in the workforce. So we really welcome this review, but think there's a broader thing at play here, because there's so many great ideas out there alongside paternity leave that businesses we know are super keen on.
That's so interesting. So are you suggesting that you could actually see a productivity boost for a business if you were to bring in some of these policies that might make people feel that they are more loyal to a company?
100%. So the Royal Foundation did a landmark piece of research just last year that showed the benefits of really getting business to focus on these early years. It would be about £45 billion to the economy. Now, maybe that'll be 30, maybe it'll be more than that. It's a big number, though. Part of that will come from the fact that if you really help children in those early years, then they are way more likely to have really stable, successful lives later on. Like, the evidence is unequivocal on that. But beyond that, there's a real productivity benefits. Like, my wife and I have an 18-month child at the moment. Actually getting some time to support to be there with my child makes me a better worker, because I'm less tired, I'm less stressed. And I think and the evidence shows that for so many people, it makes them more productive, because they've got that focus and they've got that kind of like peace at home, because they're not too stretched in terms of the time that they've got, or their finances through childcare costs as well.
And do you think, Ed, that businesses have a role here to play in the way that we think about parenthood? Because that's the other side of this conversation we've been having this morning about changing the tone. I mean, Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, told us that he knows of dads who've basically been looked down on by their employers when they say, I need a bit of time to go and pick my child up from school. And the response is, well, can't you get a babysitter? Can't you get somebody else to do that? I mean, you've co-founded your own think tank, so you're probably quite a good boss to yourself. But do you think business has a role there too?
Absolutely. If you step back from the detail of parental leave, the reality is, like, the UK has so many social, environmental issues that it's really grappling with at the moment that are hard, from climate change through to the early years being a real kind of a crisis point. We have fewer children being born, 1.44 per woman, which is a big population issue in the UK. We have people spending less time with their children. We've got other issues, you talked about earlier, around kind of people being stuck out of work. And government is incredibly limited in terms of the money that it has to pay for things. And often we look to charities like ReGenerate's, but no, we only make up, charities in the UK, 1% of the equivalent of UK business turnover. And so unless we find ways of getting businesses to see it as their role to help make this country better and tackle some of these issues and see it as their responsibility, it is unlikely they're going to go in the right direction. So I'd say it's more than just it'd be nice to add more from business to it's critical that we get businesses to think like this. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to make a dent in issues like helping children in their first few years and helping parents survive.
Ed, it's really interesting to have you on the programme. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
That's Ed Boy there, the co-founder and chief executive of the think tank ReGenerate.
Diana says, I ran a small business, 15 to 20 employees, paying maternity leave and also paying for someone to do their job while person on leave. I could not afford to do that. Big companies can do it, but over 8% of businesses in this country are small ones. How is this supposed to work without subsidies? So this question of if you're a very small business, can you make it work?
I suppose it's that point that Ed was making there, though, isn't it? That if you do this, it will pay you back. But it's the investment to be able to do it in the first place that's difficult, yeah.
And how much should the government be getting involved in trying to encourage us to have children? Hugo Rifkin is back. Morning, Hugo.
Good morning.
What do you make of government as sex butler?
Wow. I mean, it makes some. The government should be making it easier for people to have children.
It should be should it be like an aim? Do you think they should say we need to have an increasing?
What is a sex butler?
Someone who's encouraging and facilitating procreation.
Did you have one of those?
No, and
You mean it's like a doula, but the other end?
Yeah.
Oh goodness
Other
me!
end of doula.
Well, very upsetting. I think
Our editor's just walked in.
I know, it's too
I
late,
think he's
so-
very close to pulling the plug.
Yeah.
Do you want a serious point here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there is.
He's got all told Tim Davies deciding whether to pull the plug or not.
I mean, I would. I think there's a genuine problem that it is quite hard for people to afford and manage their lives in order to have children, and the government does have a role in fixing that. Whether it means shouting at people saying have more kids, I'm not sure that's quite the role.
No, or creating an environment where people can afford to have it. But it's very difficult to do that.
Well, there's lots and lots of problems, and the government is trying to tackle them. And as Adam Bolton was saying, does it have a big enough vision? We're going to see some of that vision today, Hugo, because it's a very difficult day for Keir Starmer.
Yes, well, we're going to be all over that, of course.